Tell Papa Happy Father's Day.
Mama, you ain't video.
No, I'm not videoing. I just want to know why you don't want to tell him Happy Father's Day. I don't understand.
Because on Father's Day, that's a special day for your father. And you don't want to represent him. On Father's Day, it's representing all the fathers on the world. And you don't want to say Happy Father's Day. I said Happy Father's Day to my dad to represent him. And you don't want to represent your daddy. That's being ugly to your dad.
No, I'm going to tell him Happy Father's Day, but I want you to tell him too.
No, that's weird. We ain't sisters. Ain't Pooh and you, yeah, y'all are sisters. Y'all could tell each other Happy Father's Day to your daddy, but I ain't going to, because that's not my father. It's my papa.
Okay.
I'm moving on.
That's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, happy Father's Day to everybody. Yeah, I am, glad that you are here today. I'm currently reading an autobiography of Chuck Norris, and I'm at the part in the book where he leaves home, and he turns to his dad, and he says, "Now you're the man of the house." Speaking of which, in that book, it has some pictures. Here's his dog. Yeah. Father's Day jokes. There you go. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Oh, are you afraid it's going to fall? This is part of the entertainment of the sermon. There we go. All right, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. And we will start reading in verse 8. Now, this is part 2 of what we started last week. And so if you're visiting with us, first of all, my name is Philip. And we had a message that was a part 1, of course, last week. If you want to hear that, you can go online to YouTube, look up Farmington Baptist Church, and find it there. But anyway, 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 8 is where we'll start this morning. And this is what it says. Love never ends. As for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For we know in part and we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have been fully known. So verse 11, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up childish ways. That's our verse for today, really. And this verse is preached on a lot, and it's preached on concerning spiritual maturity, which is part of what the verse is about, but a very small part. There's something bigger going on. You see, this verse right here is in the context of love. Chapter 13 is the chapter of love in the Bible. From 13, chapter 1, all the way to 14, verse 1, we are talking about love. And so in the context of love comes verse 11. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I gave up on childish ways. Not only that, but the section within the section, starting with verse 8 through verse 12, is also about love. Because in chapter 13, verse 8, very beginning of it, it says, love never ends. So that's how the section starts. And this love that never ends is unconditional love. Unconditional love never ends. Conditional love ends. But that's not what Paul is talking about. He's talking about the type of love that doesn't end regardless of circumstance, regardless of time, regardless of what is done. This particular type of love just never ends. So with the context of this unconditional love, he puts this verse in there that says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. And when I became a man, I gave up on childish ways. So what in the world does that mean? On the surface, we know Paul has moved from a state of immaturity to a state of maturity. So when he says, I'm a man, he's really relating that to everybody. You, as a lady, can go from an immature way all the way to a mature way. Just like Paul, who's a man, says, I gave up my childish ways, and now when I became a man, when I matured, I thought differently than what I was a child. So right up front, we know that he's talking about the way the mind works and what you believe. So Paul is saying there's some things that I believed when I was a child that I no longer believe as a man, as an adult. Are there things in your life that you used to believe as a child that you no longer believe as an adult? There's some Christmas stuff that I used to believe as a child that I no longer believe in as an adult. How about you? Yep. Disney World thought that the mouse was real when I was a child. Oh, I know you did too. You just don't remember it, right? And then when you step over into maturity, you don't think that way anymore. So it's a mind shift he's talking about. So what kind of mind shift is Paul talking about that has to do not with Mickey Mouse or Christmas or things like that, but has to do with love? How do we think about love when we are immature that is different than when you are mature? What is the difference there, and what is the shift, and what causes that shift? Well, he explains that in the passage. The first shift is the love that you need to attach yourself to isn't conditional love, it's unconditional love. And you need to figure out how to live out unconditional love in your life rather than having all these conditions with it. Like, I'm going to love them as long as they're good to me, but when they become bad to me, I'm going to just not love them any longer. So we have to attach ourselves to this unconditional, unending love. But the text continues, and it says, as for prophecies, they will pass away. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will pass away. For now we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when the perfect comes, the partial will pass away. You see, currently right now, I am doing what this passage is talking about. There's two different types of prophecy in Scripture. One is predicting the future, and the other is proclaiming what's already written. Right now, I'm giving you words of prophecy that isn't future. I'm proclaiming the truth of the Scripture. That's what I'm doing right now. And it says right here that one day that will cease. Have y'all seen videos lately that are made by ChatGPT and AI? And they look real? Like, it's hard to determine what's real and what's not real. And the idea now, because I've read a lot of articles about this, not a lot, some articles about this, that eventually someone is going to make a whole movie through AI, come up with a whole script, and then pick this person and this person, that's not even in the movie, physically in the movie, but their likeness is in the movie. And so we will see a movie or many movies in the future where you see, I don't know, Tom Cruise or whoever on the screen, but it's not really Tom Cruise on the screen, it's AI generated. And it's they say the potential of replacing most of the films and how we make them today. So if you're an extra in a movie, you probably will not have a job in the future, right? You possibly not have a job. And so we've seen this over time, that there's technology that comes here and it replaces something, technology that comes here, it replaces this, and it makes these jobs obsolete. One day, my job is going to be obsolete. It's going to be obsolete. There will be no reason for a preacher to get up in front of people and admonish people to live correctly. When the perfect comes, Jesus Christ, my job's done. I no longer have to do this. It's an end date. Done. Preaching is complete. When we're with Jesus, it's absolutely complete. So he's talking about the perfect coming and everything coming into perfection. Like you're not going to need me. You're not going to need knowledge. You're not going to need Google. I know that's like back in the day, we had to do it with our own brains. Now we do it with Google, right? Look up everything with Google. You don't have anything because you're going to understand things a lot better when the perfect comes than you understand them right now. There's a lot of questions that you have about things that have happened in your life and how they were even relevant to the story of God, and you are going to know the answers to those questions. And that's what the first part of this is about. He's talking about prophecy. He's talking about tongues. He's talking about knowledge. It's going to cease because when the perfect comes, all of that stuff's going to be made perfect. Prophecy, tongues are going to be replaced. Knowledge is going to be complete, and we are going to know things that we wish we had known before. So when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. How many of you, when you were a kid, knew everything? Yeah. How many of you thought your parents were stupid at some particular point in time? How many of you think your parents are stupid now? Don't raise your hand because they're right beside you. Be careful. Yeah. There's moments and times where you think that your parents just don't know anything. And they're dumb. They don't have the technology. They can't work their phone. They're just stupid people. You don't even know how you have made it this far with them in life. Like you just wonder. Like they can't get through life without you. We've all been there, right? I did that when I was a kid, and then my children did it to me. It's kind of like what you sow, you reap. There's a scripture in there somewhere. You reap later. There's some people in the room that still think at probably an old age that their parents are stupid, and you're going to reap that from your kids as well, right? So that's the way it is. So when you're a child, you think certain things. When you're immature, you think certain things. You think you know it all, but at some point, you cross over into maturity, and you're like, I don't know everything. I don't know everything. And there's some people that know more than I do, and there's some people that I know more than them. But then there's a lot of people that know just outside of what I really know, that know a lot about things that I can learn from them. And you realize that you are not all that in a bag of barbecue potato chips. You're actually just part of a whole group of people that know a lot of something, but it doesn't know a lot of nothing of other things. Anyway, does that make sense? So you cross over and you mature. You begin to listen. Well, he's saying when the perfect comes, all of that partial will pass away. Like it's just gone. When I thought like a child, I spoke like a child, but I moved and became a man. But then he says in verse 12, for now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I have fully known. What does that have to do with love? And here it is. You and I are called to love people unconditionally. Therefore, you and I are called to think of others before we think of ourselves. Unconditional love says, I'm put into this world to demonstrate the love of God, which is unconditional, to other people. That's what I'm put in this world to do. And so there's people that I need to care for. There's people I need to help. And it's all people that I need to care for and all people that I need to help. That is unconditional love. And you move from a childish, I'm the one that is important. I'm the one that should be loved. I'm the one that should be impressed. I'm the one that should be taken care of. And you switch over to, no, I'm not really the one. I need to love other people and show unconditional love to them. For me, this started when I married Nicole. She became my focus of my love. It took me outside of myself. Did I love people before her? Yeah. But did I love myself a lot? Yeah. Yeah. Right? Like every kid that's ever did a tantrum that they're not getting their way is really self-loving themselves because they're not getting their way. Is there, right? And you move over to, this isn't a big deal. There's people in the world that has tougher times than me not getting that chewing gum. right? You move over, and so you start thinking in terms of other people. And so when you get married, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to start thinking about her. And so my focus became about her. Then when we had Aurora 3 years later after marriage, it became about Aurora. And just straight up, and if you're a parent in the room, I think you'll understand what I'm saying. I can't think of a time when Aurora wasn't part of my life. I know that she wasn't, but feeling-wise, I feel like she's always been with us. Are you parents tracking in the room? And so Quinn is born, same thing happened. I feel like Quinn has always been a part of my life. Like all this time he's been with me, but I know the high school years he wasn't, but for some reason he's with me. And so there's some unconditional love happening there. And I care for Nicole first and then my children. And that is the way it should be for everybody. So you care for your spouse and then your children, and you love them unconditionally. And then you start reaching out to other people, and you love other people. I'm called to be a pastor. God called me into this. I didn't choose this. I would rather be making money. Okay? You don't make money in this position. So, I mean, the church does well. I'm not complaining at all. But my calling isn't to make money. My calling is to help people through life to get them to where they need to go. If they stray from Jesus, try to get them back to Jesus. That's my calling, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So you love people, and you connect with people, and you help them. You go from selfishness as a child to loving people unconditionally. And here's where looking in the mirror dimly comes into play. There are a lot of times in my life that I have helped people and cared for people and loved people that I was like, this is just not working. I'm doing everything I can to show these people I love them. I'm doing everything I can to try to get them to go in the right path. I'm doing everything that I can. And in the mirror, as I look in it deeply, I'm thinking, am I wasting my time? Have you ever had those thoughts? Like you really care for someone, you're really trying to get them to do the right thing, and you really invest, and you invest, and you invest, and you're thinking, am I wasting my time? Well, when you have a thought like that, you're looking into a mirror dimly because you can't see the acts of caring that you have demonstrated toward this individual, how it ripples out through time in their life. I've had relationships that just had to part ways. You ever have those? We just had to part ways. It's not because I didn't love the individual. It's not because I didn't care for the individual. It's just this individual and me, we just couldn't get along, and we just needed to part ways. This person needs to go here. I need to go here. It had nothing to do with whether or not I loved them, but it had everything to do with we just couldn't get on the same page when it came to God. Right? Well, it's at that point that you're thinking, all those years that we were friends, was that just a waste? All those years that I cared for their family, was it just a waste? And the answer to that question is no. See, if I settle with it was a waste, I'm looking into a mirror dimly. I can't see how my interaction with them and my care for them has really had an effect beyond my knowledge and beyond my comprehension. What I know is that even in relationships that had to part, they might be over here, but the caring that I showed them while we were friends has still shaped them for the moment they're living in now. That is hard to see. And I'll tell you this, it works the other way. The caring that they showed me in my life has shaped me for who I am right now. Sometimes we think, it didn't work, it wasn't worth it, this was a waste of time. But showing unconditional love toward people is never a waste of time. And if you think in that direction, you are looking into a mirror very dimly. Very dimly. Because we just can't see. Here's the good news. When the perfect comes, what we will find out is that every time we exercise unconditional love, it had a major impact into eternity. That's what we're going to find out. And we're going to be shocked. We're going to be shocked that this little thing that we did here that we thought was a waste of time was really not a waste of time, and he used it for something great. That it changed the course of something. Because unconditional love is fierce. When I was a child, I gave up on people. When I became a man, I learned how to love them unconditionally, even if the relationships have to part ways. I learned how to love, and I learned to trust in unconditional love because it is fierce. And that brings us to chapter 13, verse 1. It says this: if I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing. So let me ask you a question. Does anybody know in the room what they're good at? Anybody? I want you to tell me. You know what you're good at? What are you good at, Bob? You're good at working on cars. Interesting thing. I went through two people in the first service. Were you in that service? You were not in that service. You just got here. Sometimes they come to both because they love me so much. I'm just messing too. I went to two people, and then the third one was a mechanic as well. So you're a car mechanic, and you love to do that. You're good at it. Understand it. If you were to come up right now and grab his guitar, could you strum us a song and sing a little bit? Are you good at that? Isn't it nice for people to know what they're good at and what they're not good at? Yeah. Who else in this room is good at something? Nobody? You are? What are you good at? Working with children in any aspect. Just love it, right? So if we were to take you and say, this couple right here needs some marriage counseling.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be good at it. I'm not saying that y'all need marriage counseling. You know, I'm not saying that. Just. And if you're visiting, I know them. They're fine. All right. Yeah, they're fine. So you're good at that, and so you like to give to children. Yeah, very good. Who else is good at something? Nobody. A lot of people just aren't good at something. Yeah, right here. Baking. All right. Like what kind of baking? Let's talk about this. Sourdough bread. So cake? Any cake? Some cake, but you're into sourdough bread. All right. Sourdough bread person right here, she's good at it. But cake, not so much? Not so much. You're not good at cake, but good at the sourdough bread. Okay. Good, great, awesome. Yeah, so you stay in your lane. You stay in what you're good at. See, I've talked to people before that say that they're good at everything. And they're not. There's nobody on earth that's good at everything, right? This is what Paul is somewhat communicating here. He's saying that if you are good at speaking in the tongues of men and angels but have not love, you're nothing. He is saying that if you have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and do not have love, you're nothing. He is saying that if you're good at generosity, giving to the poor, selling everything you have, and didn't do it with love, he's saying you're nothing. He's basically saying that whatever you're good at, if you don't do it with love, you're good for nothing. You're doing all your good for no reason at all. If you're a mechanic, you do it because you love people, not because you're being prideful about all that I know about the engine, right? You do it for people. If you bake sourdough bread, you're doing it for people. You're not doing it because I'm the best sourdough bread maker in the whole area. I am number one. I was voted number one in the city of Knoxville. You know, it's not that prideful thing. It is you do it for someone else. If you work with kids, it's not because, oh, I'm the one that they all like. Yeah, I'm better than all my other employees. I'm better than anybody. Look at all these kids. They love me very much. That's not why she's working for kids. She's working for kids because she loves kids. See, if you do it because you're getting something from the kids recognizing you and you feel important and all that kind of stuff, you're actually doing your job without love, and you're doing it for nothing. You're good for nothing. But if you do it because you love kids and you want to have an impact in their life, that is something. You are good for something. So Paul is saying, whatever you're good at, do it with love. Be good for something. Be good for something. See, if you build up yourself, that's going to pass away. But if you build up others, that is never going to pass away. And it has a ripple effect long after people have forgotten you. The seeds that you planted here are still growing into the future, even though people don't know your name. That is the power and the fierceness of unconditional love. That is what happens. So once you start to realize that it's not all about you, stuff you're great at, when it becomes about other people and how you can help them with what you're good at, that is the moment that you cross the line from being a child and thinking like a child, and you move into maturity. The problem is when we move into maturity, sometimes we still can't see past the love that we're showing to see how it really has a major impact. So a couple of things about becoming a man, becoming an adult. Here's a couple of things. When I learned to care for others, I became a man. When I learned to truly care for others deep inside and then started acting on that belief, I changed. I changed from doing things for myself to doing things for others. One of the 10 secrets of marriage is this right here. Your marriage improves when you care for the person you married more than you care for yourself. The problems in a marriage relationship totally changes when both partners cares more about the other individual than they do themselves. And what happens in life, even in relationships, that helps your relationships as well. When you start caring for other people more than you do yourself, it also helps other relationships as well. So when I learned to care for others more than myself, that's when I crossed over. Looking into the mirror dimly would be like, yeah, I do love him more, but it just isn't working. I do love her more, but it just isn't working. Keep loving them. That phrase right there is looking into a mirror dimly. You are saying you can't see how your caring is playing out in a positive way. Are you tracking? But it is. Because love, unconditional love, is fierce. Here's the next one. When I learned to say the hard things because I'm concerned for the well-being of others, I crossed over from being a child to being an adult. Have you ever said something to someone that needed to be said, but it's not because you loved them? The reason that you said it is because you felt superior. You felt superior. You felt better. You felt you were the one that needed to correct them. You felt like you're the one that needed to step in and say, no, do this, right? And it was really just all about you. And when you approached that person, and it was all about you and what you were going to say so that you would have a story to tell other people about the neat wisdom thing that you said to them. Come on, we've all done it. Yeah, it didn't go too well. Basically, what people walked away from that conversation with is that you're all that and you didn't even fix the problem. You said what maybe or maybe not needed to be said, but it had no effect on the situation. That's because you did it without love. See, when you learn to say the hard things because you're really concerned for the well-being of others, the conversations go differently. You are saying something out of concern. You're not saying it for a soundbite for your friends. You're not saying it to beef yourself up. You're not saying it for any other reason other than you know you have to say it because they're going in the wrong direction. And so to say these words to them would hopefully push them or move them just a little bit in the right direction. That's what you're hoping for. You have a conversation, you're just hoping it'll edge into something good. And I will tell you this, even if you're looking into a mirror dimly and you don't see any change in their life, what you said to them has affected them and they are thinking about it, especially because you did it with unconditional love. Is everybody tracking with me? So when I became a man, I learned to say the hard things because I'm concerned for the well-being of others. Because I love them so much, I want them to change. I love them so much, I want them to get in the direction of Jesus. I love them so much, I had the hard conversation. It's a crossover. Here's the next one. When I learned to say encouraging things to people, I crossed it over from being childish to being adult. Walk into a room, look for people, say something encouraging. Don't walk into a room to talk about the bad stuff that's happened to you all day long. Well, I just need to just talk to people and get it off my chest. No, you don't. You need to find somebody to encourage because somebody needs to find you and encourage you. If they encourage you, the bad stuff would kind of be less. So instead of getting thrills out of talking about bad things that are happening in your life, get a thrill about encouraging other people through their dark times. See, when you are getting a thrill out of talking about the bad times in your life to other people, you're living as a child. When you get a thrill out of encouraging other people to continue to do what they're doing, and you see the change that is made and the encouragement in their eyes, you are living for other people. You are an adult. You are a man. When I learned to say encouraging things to people, that's when I crossed over from being a child to being a man. And sometimes encouraging things are hard things to say. Like, don't do that. That's an encouragement. Let me encourage you not to do that, but do this. Did you get? It's an equation. Let me encourage you not to do this, but do this instead. Always have do this instead. Don't you hate it when people tell you not to do something and you don't know what to do after that? A person that really cares about you is going to tell you not to do it and do this instead. That's what a person does. So when I learned to do those sorts of things is when I crossed over. Here's another one. When I learned to care regardless of the risk. This is a tough one. There are times in my life and in your life where we are going to help somebody or we are going to care for somebody and we think that it is going to fail. Have you ever been there? Like you think before you do it, it's going to be a waste of time. It's going to be a waste of effort. That is looking into the mirror dimly. This tough conversation is going to be a waste of my time. They're not going to change. This helping them out in their financial situation is not going to help them out. They're not going to change. That's looking into a mirror dimly. If you do it, regardless of the risk, you're tapping into unconditional love. Because regardless of how you think it's going to end, it's really going to end better because we can only see in a mirror dimly how the good deeds that we do actually affect the course of history, the course of other people's lives, and the ripple effect that it takes into eternity. We do not understand. We can't fully comprehend that. That's what Paul's saying. He's saying love people regardless of the risk. The risk, I believe that they were going to fail. It was going to fail because I had seen other risk fail time and time again. I've done stuff nice for them before, and it just turned out bad. The thing is, one day when the perfect comes, you will see clearly how the stuff that you did that was good actually impacted their lives. So looking into a mirror dimly is that. Tuesday, I was able to go to Florida to Universal Studios. I left Tuesday afternoon, traveled down. Quinn and I and a couple other people traveled down to Florida, to Orlando, made it safely, and we went to Universal Studios. When I went into Universal Studios, I began to see all these families. We went to Epic Universe first. It's kind of like a very expensive children's park. It is. It's nice. I like it. Has some good stuff for adults, but if you go there, I mean, it's a child-based sort of deal. It's awesome. So there's a lot of families. Well, there was several families that were having trouble with their children, like they were crying in inappropriate times, like they were having trouble with them in the stroller. Sometimes they were tired. So what I started doing is I started walking up to those parents and said, I just want to let you know you're doing a great job. You really are. And you're doing good right now in this hard situation. I said that to several people. Every time I said that, their spirits lifted. And all of a sudden, these parents that thought they were failures or having a hard time begin to think, well, this is normal, and people really aren't looking at us the way that I thought they were looking at us. And this is a stranger that thinks I'm a good parent. And here's why I thought they were a good parent. They spent a lot of money to bring all those, and they're staying somewhere. In Orlando, I mean, we looked around. I don't know where they're staying, but that's money out of your pocket, And so you're trying to create a family experience that you think your kids would enjoy. You're a good parent. You're trying to connect with your children. That's a great parent. So to tell somebody that, lifts their spirit. And I don't know how that's going to affect them in the days to come. Like they might not even remember that I even said that to them at this point, right? But that encouragement built on something. That unconditional love built on something. And I see in a mirror dimly, I don't know how that's going to ripple in eternity. That's just a small thing. Just a small thing. Saturday, I flew back here on Frontier Airlines. Now, just in case you don't know what Frontier Airlines is, you've probably heard of Spirit. They're in the same class, okay? Same class of airline. Very cheap, very cheap. And so I was flying back on Spirit Airlines, and during the flight, there was a father right here that was holding his child, and the child was asleep, and he was asleep on her head. It was awesome. When we were flying into Charlotte, they told us to put our seatbelts back on, and he had to put her in the chair, and she became a little afraid, and she wanted to sit in his lap, but he said, you can't sit in my lap, but I'm right here, and everything's going to be okay. And he held her hand until that plane landed in the airport. And so when we had landed and she was back in his lap, I looked at him and said, you're a great dad. Happy Father's Day. And he smiled. Now, did that man need encouragement? Probably not. I mean, as I looked in the mirror differently, that man was not in a crisis situation. He was just doing what a dad should do, right? Helping his daughter, helping calm her fears. And she listened to him, and she trusted him, which showed me he was a great dad, just a great dad. So telling him that, I don't know how that's going to impact him in the future. I can't see that. Because sometimes we do things for people, and we feel good about it, and we think that we've seen all the good that was a result of what we did, but the fact of the matter is, even when we do something good, that we see the results, we don't see the full results of that good thing that we have done. We're excited about it, and we think we do, but we really haven't seen it all. And so that's also looking into a mirror dimly. So somehow, that particular thing is going to work out in eternity. When I was first on the plane, let me tell you how this works. Because you might know, I didn't know, but now I do. The airline, the ticket was cheap, okay? And Nicole said, well, for $25 more, you can pick your seat. And I said, well, I don't know. Let me see how the seats are. And so we pulled up the airplane, and there was 3 seats on this side and 3 seats on this side. So I thought to myself, I think I want an aisle seat, and I'm going to pay $25 to get an aisle seat. So I paid $25, got an aisle seat. So I'm sitting in an aisle seat, and there's this lady right over here, and she's a medical person. She's preparing this presentation about bones. I really didn't understand most of what she was saying to me. Yeah, but it was a presentation, had nice pictures of bone structures and stuff, and she was coming into Charlotte to do that, and so that's what she was doing. And the seat beside us was empty, and it was empty for a long time as these people were coming in. And Philip was praying because there's just some people I just didn't want to sit beside. Isn't that horrible? Like, smells. Like, I didn't want somebody that smelled. I didn't want somebody, horrible, horrible prayer. I admit that now. But I was praying. Well, right before the flight left, this skinny black guy in a hoodie came down the aisle of the aircraft, and he was on his phone and was very loud and was talking and just didn't stop. Like, it was really fast, really talking, didn't stop. And he was using words that immediately turned the whole environment into an R-rated experience. I mean, it was one expletive after another after another. And so he's coming down and he's talking to this woman, and he sits here. And what I found out first is that this lady actually has some of his children. And so he's talking to her, he's coming to Charlotte, he's talking to her using all these expletives. He's telling her what he did the night before in Orlando. And there's just some things that he did that I was like, wow, okay. And we're telling everybody on the aircraft this is good. So he kept talking to her. And wow, expletive. But what I picked up in between the stuff I can't tell you this morning in church is that this guy had children by 5 women. He was between the age of 33 and 36 and had children, just all these children. I finally figured out that he has 8 children by 5 different women. 8 children by 5 different women. And he's talking about all 5 of the women to this one woman that he has children with, and he's telling her the one that he doesn't like. And he says, after all these explicits, he says, but I'm leaving that in God's hands. And then he continues, okay? Well, the flight, the pilot comes on, and he, like that. And what that meant was, we're about to take off, turn off all your electronic devices. So he had to turn off his phone. And so as soon as he turned off his phone, he pulled his hoodie like this to where it came over his eyes, and he went to sleep. Like, just like that, just dropped asleep right there, right next to me. Now, during this whole process, I am praying for this guy, that somewhere down the road, God will bring somebody into his life to share the gospel with him and turn him around, and then it would just trickle down into his family, and everybody would be saved, and it would be better. And then I said, well, I wonder if I could say something to him. And I was sitting there thinking, what I could say something to him, and what I would say is, I noticed that in your conversation you said, leave it in the hands of God. And I would like to ask you a question about that. And my question is, how has God changed your life? I thought that would be a great question. Well, we landed. He wakes up. I didn't know if I'd have an opportunity to talk to him at all. And he starts talking to me. He tells me all about going to a graduation of his first child and how it's in Charlotte. And he's telling me all this stuff about himself. He's not using any cuss words. I think it's because I was white. I think it was. But he's not using any of the cuss words that he was using before. And I failed to ask him the question. I failed to speak with him about Jesus. I failed. I had an opportunity to ask him the question that I'd thought about asking him, and I blew it. Absolutely blew it. When we hit the runway, he immediately turned on his phone, and it was right back to the R-rated stuff. There was no way that I could break that up at all. In fact, he took that with him down the aisle behind me, talking to whoever it was the rest of the way, and I blew it. So I have now missed out on an opportunity when the perfect comes to see how unconditional love would have played out in this individual's life. How many opportunities do you and I miss like that because we're really not committed to unconditional love? One of the things that this passage is about, it's about you and me being soldiers with unconditional love in this world. It's about you and me, instead of going out the doors and adding to all the darkness and all the evil, it's about you and me going out with unconditional love and loving people toward Jesus. That's what this passage is about. And you and I need to, this week, just pray that God will open up opportunities for us to encourage people in small ways or big ways. I know that you are a good parent is not a demonstration of the gospel in those parents' lives, but here's what it communicates. There is still something good in this world that you can reach for. If I had said that to him, he would still be thinking about it today. He would have cussed me out right there on the aircraft. He would have pushed, I don't know what he would have done. I don't know what he would have done in that moment. But I know this, today he would be thinking about, has God really changed my life? And you don't know where that would go. So anything that you can do to encourage people helps them toward a better day. Unconditional love means that I care about people more than my risk. I care about people even though I don't see how it will work out later. I care enough about people to want them to at least be pushed in a small way towards salvation. Does this make sense? And each little thing that you do that's good does that. Especially the people that know that you're a Christian. They are looking at you to be something different than they normally interact with. And the difference is unconditional love. Let's pray.